Hello everyone, my name is PlanQ, and it's been a while since I made a video, and I wasn't really planning on actually doing anything with this channel. However, um, Hearthstone, a game that I've invested quite a bit into recently, has actually come up with a new way to recruit new players and encourage other players who have been away from the game for a while to come back, which I found to be really, really cool. They're going to give a free deck to new and returning players, and they're competitively viable decks, like they have legendaries, etc., etc. But so I created a new account to see what these decks played like, just give them a try. Honestly, it was going to be kind of fun. So I completed the tutorial, and you don't get the deck after that. So I was kind of curious as to um, when you were supposed to get it. I searched the web and found there was actually no information on it whatsoever. So um, this video is basically an explanation of that process and when and how you're going to have to get your deck. So after completing the tutorial, I'm like, maybe you just need to unlock all the classes. So I went into practice mode, unlocked all the classes, still didn't work. I thought surely you don't need to unlock all the basic cards for all the classes, that would take ages. But then I found out that actually you have to reach rank 25, essentially graduate from the new player ranks, which is actually a very difficult process. It took me 2.5 days to complete, even with my prior knowledge of the game. And I did not have very good success. I had to eventually switch over to a Face Hunter Dragon deck, which is very cheesy if you know the Hearthstone meta at the time of making this. But there was nothing else that could really compete against some of the decks I was coming up against, because I was playing people with quest decks and just things that you shouldn't be able to craft at that point. So anyway, after the long process, I finally made it to the point where you create a deck, and this is pick your free deck, and this is what it looks like. Which, it's also interesting that they don't actually show you the deck list. If you got it after the tutorial or after unlocking all the other classes, I would have understood that, because you wouldn't necessarily have an idea of how the game works, so they would need to tell you what the deck looked like. But if you have the grind all the way to rank 25, by the time you make it up there, you should be a relatively experienced player. And so them not really showing you the deck list, although not like a terrible issue, is a little iffy, because you don't actually know what your deck is going to look like, what the things you're going to get out of it are. They don't show you like the dust value or the amount of legendaries that you're going to get, which does vary from class to class. Some classes' decks are worth more than others. It's not the worst thing in the world, but it is something to take into account. Of course, you can find this information online. If you do some research, it's avoidable. However, I think after all that work, you should be able to know what they look like. However, they do give you a short little anecdote that describes what the deck does, which, for the most part, is all pretty well explained. So, like, for starters here, I'll just go through all the decks and kind of explain for some of them what you get. I don't know all of them very well, but and how they play. So the first one is Druid, a Treant-focused Druid deck. Flood the board with Treants, buff them with Gore of the Might Tree, and stomp your opponent. So the Druid deck, of course, is the Treant token Druid deck. I have a completely fleshed out version on my main account. It is a very, very good deck, at least especially in the current meta. It contends very well. Gore is an incredible choice. It's actually the only legendary that I have in that deck on the main. And they also give you Keeper Staladris, which is not a necessity, but it is helpful, and especially if you don't want to keep Keeper Staladris, you can disenchant it for dust to use for other things. Overall, it's a good deck. It's in the more aggro side of things. A deck designed to take people down quickly. Gore of the Might Tree is a 5/10 taunt. It helps protect your face in the event that they make a mount to comeback. And then overall just kind of helps overwhelm the opponent. Once again, all these decks are very well, they're complete decks. They will they definitely have the capability of making it up to, in fact, legend if you're a good player. So second, we have Hunter, an aggressive Hunter deck, which what Hunter deck isn't? Summon swarms of minions to complete your quest and completely overwhelm your opponent. So this is the Quest Hunter deck, which the quest once completed is a 2-cost hero power that gives all of your minions +2 attack. It's very powerful once you complete it. I have personally not played with it, but I've played against it. It's toward the top of the meta right now. It's not like on the top deck list, but many important streamers and people can confirm that it is a good deck. I would not be picking this one, but it is by no means a bad pick. Next, we move on to one of the more notable inclusions, Mage. A control Mage deck containing no duplicates. Take advantage of Zephyrus the Great and to deal with your opponent's minions. So, that description actually does not do it justice. The control Mage deck it's a very good deck right now. It's a Highlander deck, as they are known, singleton, etc. Essentially, just no duplicates in the deck, and you get it's focused on value trades and playing big minions that do a lot for your state. If you don't know what a control deck aims to do is control the board, answer every single minion or anything that an opponent plays, and keep yourself alive, and then in the late game overwhelm them. So, what makes this particular choice so good? Because the thing is about the Highlander Mage deck is that Highlander Mage is a very, very, very expensive deck because it has so many legendaries in it, because oftentimes you're only playing one thing a turn, and so it needs to have a lot of impact. The only thing about Mage is that you only get, I think, three legendaries out of it, which they are powerful legendaries. You get Zephyrus the Great, Dragon Queen Alexstrasza, and Reno. Reno Relicologist versus the 10 cost. So, essentially, the reason that this is a good choice is because you get Zephyrus and Alexstrasza. The meta of a singleton deck is so strong right now, and looks to continue to be in the future. Zephyrus and Alexstrasza are in every single singleton deck, or Highlander deck, whatever you want to call it. Their effects are so powerful. I'm not going to go over them in depth now because that would make an even longer video, and I'm trying to be a little more to the point. But essentially, they're the start of every single Highlander deck, and so having them means that you can make a Highlander deck for any class, regardless, which is good. It's very good. It adds a lot of versatility, and they're just very, very powerful cards in general. And you can still ladder with the Highlander Mage deck that they have. It won't be as good as the full Highlander Mage deck, but it is still very good, and it gives you a lot of value out of those cards. And then Reno the Relicologist is also a singleton deck card, so it also benefits from the no duplicates thing. That is a Mage only card though, versus Zephyrus and Dragon Queen are good because they're neutral cards, and you can use them in any deck. Next we have Pure Paladin, Paladin. A Paladin deck that needs only Paladin cards to claim victory. Get aggressive early on and finish strong with Treant Fordring. So, you should not pick this deck. You shouldn't. It's not that good, but it is fun. It is lots of fun. Pure Paladin is, as it describes, a version of Paladin where you only have Paladin cards. It is not exactly in the meta. It is not a very good strategy. However, it is fun. I find it to be a fun deck to play, but if you're looking for a deck that's going to be consistent and really, really strong, don't pick Pure Paladin. However, if you like Paladin, and this is where you want to go, by all means. So you'll get Treant, you'll get, I think, Kangor. Don't quote me on that. I don't actually know, but it's a fun deck. It's also lower dust value, so you get less bang for your buck out of the Paladin deck. So unless you really like Paladin or really have the idea of pure Paladin stuck in your head, don't pick that. I'm actually going to save Priest for last. So then in that case, our next deck is Rogue, a Galakrond-themed rogue deck. Use lackeys and spells to disrupt your opponent while invoking Galakrond the Nightmare. So, for all of the Galakronds, free decks, it's important to note that Galakrond you get for free from just purchasing with gold or money one Descent of Dragons pack. Very easy to do, so you're losing dust out of that because one of the legendaries that you get in the deck is going to be Galakrond. However, all things considered, Galakrond Rogue is a very, very fun deck to play. It's the effect of generating cards that cost 0 is allows for a lot of variety and a lot of strategy. It is a cool deck, it is a powerful deck, and it still gives you a lot of value because in Galakrond Rogue you get Kronks, and Kronks is a neutral legendary that goes in almost, if not every Galakrond deck. So it's a good choice. You also get Togwaggle, which is one of like the favorite cards in the history of Hearthstone. So it's a good choice. Next we have Shaman, a Galakrond-themed Shaman deck focused on summoning tons of powerful minions and invoking Galakrond the Tempest. So, historically, Galakrond Shaman has actually been a problem. When Descent of Dragons first came out, it was super overpowered. Really overpowered. I actually already played Shaman, and that was the first pre-order that I purchased, so I got a lot of the Galakrond cards, and so I crafted Galakrond Shaman, because I like to play Shaman. I did not realize how incredibly overpowered it was, and ranked all the way to, like, rank 10 from my previous not-so-great state. I was still not good at the game at all, so it's incredible that I was able to make it that far. 10 is not very far as a lot of people are concerned, so I'm not like touting that as a big accomplishment. It was just really good for me at the time. Galakrond Shaman's good. It's not incredible. It's definitely not the best deck on this list. It's not complete as far as the legendaries are concerned. I don't know everything you get in this deck personally. It was very low on my possible picks, but once again, you are getting Galakrond in this deck, so you're losing dust value there. So I wouldn't necessarily pick that. However, if you like Shaman, and you don't mind playing a Galakrond deck, which is not necessarily traditional Shaman, that's the way to go. Next, we've got Warlock, the last of the Galakrond decks. A Galakrond-themed Warlock deck. Flood the board with small, cheap minions while invoking Galakrond the Wretched. So, this is basically what is known as Galakrond Zoo Warlock. Zoo Warlock, you're summoning a lot of minions, a lot of small minions, trying to it's a very, very aggro deck. Zoo is not as powerful right now as it has been in the past. It's relatively solid throughout all metas, though, and the Galakrond effect for Warlock is by no means bad. So, again, I don't know everything you get in this deck. I know the general structure of Galakrond Warlock. You see a ton of it when you're trying to rank up to 25. So, if you've made it this far and you think that's overpowered, or you think you really like that sort of playstyle, by all means. But once again, you're getting Galakrond, so less dust. But it is a solid deck, and definitely one that you can ladder with. So, if you like Warlock, and you don't mind Galakrond, that's the way to go. Lastly, we have Warrior. Lastly, I left Priest out for a particular reason, but we have Warrior, which is a fast, aggressive pirate warrior deck. Crush your opponent with pirates and strong weapons like Ankar. So, pirate warrior is not top of the meta, but it is a very good deck, a very consistent deck. It's fast and aggressive, like it says. You get Ankar, which had to be nerfed originally because it was so good. You have Ankar, you have Captain Greenskin. I think those are the only two legendaries you actually get in Pirate Warrior. So it's, as far as the dust value and legendary count, pretty small. I'm also analyzing this from the perspective of, at least for me, and especially I would think newer players, it's fun to play decks that have more legendaries in them. And as far as Warrior is concerned, those legendaries are going to be less part of the deck. Well, not necessarily that, but there will be less of them in the deck. Ankar is a huge part of Pirate Warrior, and is definitely a good deck to play. But I would not necessarily pick this. I think if you like Warrior and you don't mind playing Pirate Warrior, which is not necessarily traditional things like Mech Warrior, Control Warrior, damage yourself warrior, whatever you want to call that. If you don't mind that at all, and you want to play warrior, go ahead and play that. But it's not necessarily my top picks. Lastly, Priest. The reason I left this for last is because this is easily the best deck out of these, as far as a structure is concerned. A control priest deck that uses early spells to stop enemy minions, keep resurrecting fallen minions in the late game to claim victory. So, control priest is a problem. Res priest, anyway, that is. It was absolutely nuts in Descent of Dragons meta, and I don't see how it would continue to not be a problem. They made some changes to Priest. They took out one of its main cards, Northshire Cleric, so it's not necessarily going to be as dominant as it used to be, but it's still a really, really good deck. And looking through all these deck lists, this Res Priest deck is actually, like, pretty much complete. I mean, there are some things you could take and swap out for other things based on your own opinion, but this is the most complete deck out of the list. You get Katrina Muerte, which at the end of the turn you summon a minion that has died throughout the game. That's super powerful because the style of this deck is you are shuffling in death rattle minions that make a big impact on the game state, and so you're resurrecting them all the time. It's hard to get through, big taunts. It's just really, really good. And you also, I'm not sure, I think you get the quest, which is another big part of the deck. It helps solidify its endgame. And then, it's like, there's like another legendary that you get in there. It's really good. And I would highly recommend it. It's got, you could easily level to legend with it. It's just really, really good. It contends even the top of the meta, and it will easily get you through the early ranked past 25. Again, it's just very good. So, yeah, Priest is my top recommendation. If you didn't want to play Priest, I'd say that probably the next best thing is Rogue. But if you're looking for all over use, like value for other decks and building your collection, Mage for other Highlander decks, and Rogue for other Galakrond decks. Rogue would, if you're looking for like a value, like a deck that you can use a lot, that's already really, really good, but you can still use to make other things, maybe Rogue, because you get Kronks for other Galakrond decks, but it's still just a really, really good Rogue deck. I mean, you also get all of the other, like, Galakrond themed cards that you would need for other Galakrond decks, so there's that as well. But like, I'd say probably in my pick list, Priest in number 1, Rogue in number 2, Mage in number 3. As far as value is concerned, in just strictly dust and other deck values concerned, probably Mage, Rogue, Priest, because Priest doesn't really give you a lot of value in other things. So, yeah. Anyway, so yeah, I'm picking Priest.
Because you don't like fun?
Because I love fun. Well, I don't like other people's fun. I like my fun.
Do you know how boring that is?
Day of the Dead. Jump in and play with your new deck. So let's just take a look at everything you get with this. So yes, you get Katrina Muerte and Archmage Bargoth. Two very good inclusions, and there you go. A pretty much, if not completely complete,
It's not complete.
Priest, res Priest deck. Yeah, there you go. Well, hope that helps.